We actually got back from a trip to Indiana, which is the RV capital of the world.
So over the course of 9 days, we drove about 1,100 miles, visited 4 states, 14 RV factory tours, 30 hours actually on tours, and over 30 hours sitting in the car driving around. So covered a lot of ground. There's a lot to share. We're going to keep this pretty high level because we realize not everyone gets as excited about this stuff as we do. Let's get started with the key learnings and highlights and insights from our trip to Elkhart, Indiana, RV capital of the world. Stay tuned. So we decided to fly in, had an eventful flight, made us realize why we love RV travel. Absolutely. And it is the best way to travel by far, I tell you. We rented a car, stayed in an Airbnb in Goshen, which is pretty central to most of the manufacturers. They're all pretty closely concentrated within an hour drive to most of them.
And we weren't just looking at motorhomes or fifth wheels. We looked at travel trailers, fifth wheels, Class A's, B's, C's. We tried to go see every different type of RV being manufactured.
So the purpose of the trip was 100% doing RV manufacturer factory tours. We did virtually no touring around. I think we managed to snap a photo of one Amish buggy while we were driving.
Yeah, the one thing we did that wasn't an RV manufacturer was the RV Hall of Fame.
And it's all RV related, yeah. RV Manufactured Home, Hall of Fame and Museum. Definitely worth a visit if you happen to be in Elkhart. But with that, let's dive into what we learned from the RV factory tours and some things to keep in mind for when you're shopping for your RVs.
First of all, we absolutely loved doing all these tours. I'm so excited and so passionate about it. We were doing couple a day for over a week, and could have kept going for more. There was definitely plenty more manufacturers to see, but in those tours that we did, it was really interesting to see that they have a lot in common. I mean, obviously every manufacturer has their own little differences that they claim is better, but most all manufacturers are going to use largely the same chassis, from either Ford as a gas coach or Freightliner, Spartan, or a few others for the motorhomes. Most of the trailer manufacturers are using trailer frames built by Lippert.
Lippert Components is a really big company in Elkhart, Indiana. In fact, they employ over 8,000 people, and they manufacture the different parts that go into various RVs and motorhomes.
A lot of the components that go into them, you know, the water heaters, appliances like shade toppers, awnings, steps,
leveling jacks.
So many of those things are all built by third party, you know, cabinets and everything. So basically how the walls are built, how the frames for the walls are built, how they run wires, those are things that are unique to different manufacturers, and it's really neat to go see that firsthand.
And it was really interesting and fun to actually watch Mark be so excited being at the factory tours and watching these things being built. And I got a taste of it last year when we were at the Tiffin factory in Red Bay. He has had a background in construction and also is a car and anything with wheels and trucks complete nut. So it just is
It's perfect, yeah, because you're getting both, right? You're getting house building and you're getting cars all melded into one, and so it's really fun to watch this whole thing come together.
He was like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, and on that note, I would so recommend that you go to an RV tour, whether it's for the manufacturer that you intend to buy or not, because they have so much in common, you would still have a lot of learning in seeing how they're built, which might help you better understand any RV that you buy.
Yeah, another advantage of going to see a factory tour of another brand that you may not even be potentially interested in buying, and I'm not just talking about the kind of RV, any kind of RV. If you're looking at going to buy a Class A motorhome, don't be afraid to go and look and see how a travel trailer is built, because again, there's still going to be some similarities in some of those building processes and components. But one of the reasons that it can be advantageous to look at some brands of RVs that you may not be interested, or even types, is it gives you a point of reference. So if you're only looking at the one you're interested in buying, how do you know what to compare it to know if it is superior for your needs to some other brand or even type of RV?
Remember that when you go on a tour, their end goal is to sell you an RV. Most of the tour guides you're going to experience are members of the sales department, not research and development or customer service. So their end goal is to sell you a product. And so when they're telling you about how their product is the best, it's not necessarily from an unbiased source, so definitely keep that in mind.
And one thing you may not know is that the RV industry, unlike the car industry, is largely unregulated.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot of creativity, I think, in the marketing terms, and because a lot of these are built with the similar materials, and yet you'll see vastly different R values or insulation values claimed for one product versus another, even though if you go on both tours, you see that they're using the same products and installing them the same way.
But they may be written about in a different way in their marketing material. And of course, it can be hard to know that, because when you're looking at a spec sheet or some marketing materials or a brochure on a particular RV, you would like to think that you can just believe all of the information that's in there. And we're not here to say that it's all untrue, but just to keep a healthy awareness and a skepticism that, you know, the point of marketing is to package something up in a way to make you buy it. And so if there's a way, especially in an unregulated industry, where they can communicate something in a way that sounds better than their competitor, well, depending on their levels of ethics, some of them may just do that, and we did hear about some of those examples.
One thing that might be surprising is that many of the dealers and the people who work at corporate headquarters and people who build the RVs don't own RVs or have any experience with RVs.
And these are the people that are building our RVs. So it's kind of surprising to us to see how many of those people don't actually have RVing experience. And so they're the ones designing them, they're the ones building them, and they're not the ones living in them or traveling in them for the most part. I think some of the manufacturers have some loaner RVs that their employees can use to go out and enjoy on weekends as part of a benefit. But, you know, when it comes to living in an RV, like, you know, we do and so many other people do, particularly full-timers, they just don't have that level of experience of what it's like to live and what kind of things we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And
that lack of experience with RVing sometimes shows up in an RV design, where the refrigerator will not open if the bed is down, which, you know, just little things like that livability are terrible. So that's why we recommend anytime you go shopping RVs, make sure you pretend you're living in it to make sure you're making a good choice. Make sure you dress appropriately for the tours. Most all the tours require you to have closed-toed shoes. Many of them will make you wear eye protection and safety vests and sometimes ear protection, so keep everyone safe out on the tour. Because remember, this is the shop floor, and some of the tours are actually conducted during production hours. So their floor is covered with stuff, and you could easily, you know, smash your toe or hit your head or get something in your eye. So make sure you're bringing shoes, because we saw people turned away from tours because they didn't have proper closed-toed shoes. Yeah.
But they will provide the safety gear, generally, like glasses, safety vests, and earplugs if you need those. They'll provide those, but just make sure you wear closed-toed shoes. One of the things we learned upon arrival is that most manufacturers won't actually allow photography or video on the tours. There are a couple of exceptions to that, but for the most part, we weren't able to capture that for a lot of the tours. So Mike was just copiously taking notes, pages and pages and pages of notes.
Another thing to keep in mind is that RVs are mostly hand-built. Most of these manufacturing facilities are not at all high-tech. There's very little automation, a lot of hands-on stuff, which really lends to why they're all so unique. No two RVs are exactly the same. And so that's part of the reason why you see more challenges with the break-in period and stuff like that. So just really important to remember that these are hand-built, one at a time, usually in low-tech facilities like just a simple metal shed, really.
Yeah, we were pretty surprised when we saw some of the manufacturing plants is just a big tin shed out in the middle of the country in farmland, and it was just not quite what we were expecting. I think we expected to see a lot more high-tech than we actually did. So when you think about it, if you've ever custom built a home, or if you know anyone that has, you and your neighbor could have exactly the same home or condo being built, and the builder will hand you the keys when it's done, and there's always a punch list to work out some bugs and fix things, because they're so handmade. And that's something that I think a lot of people forget about. This is not like, you know, Toyota or Honda, Ford churning out, you know, millions of vehicles a year and having those kind of automations and procedures and quality assurance in place for that.
It's also important to note that right now the RV industry is booming, which means that there's a really high demand, which then also means that the manufacturing lines are being pushed to their limit. They're trying to produce a lot of RVs with their same team of folks. So that means they're pushing pretty hard, opens up a little bit more opportunity for errors, and something definitely to keep in mind with that higher production volume.
You know, quality control, I think one of the common complaints among RVers is the inconsistent quality control and, you know, the high incident of having to get things fixed, especially when you buy a brand new RV. That's one of the frustrations from new owners. And, you know, we would like to think that every single RV that's rolling off the factory floor is quality checked before it goes to the dealer, and that is not the case. There are very few that do a QC on every single unit that rolls out, and that's simply because of the high volume that they are producing.
And they're trying to keep costs down, and that's a really big way to keep costs down.
Right, QA is a big expensive line item, and we learned that some of the manufacturers will only check like 4 out of 10 units. So, you know, not even half of them will actually get checked before they roll off the floor. And that's why when you're buying an RV, having your dealer do a really thorough PDI, that's a pre-delivery inspection, is really, really important. So don't rush that process. We know you're keen to get your RV and get out there and start enjoying it, but you need to be really diligent at making sure that everything's kind of dialed in before you drive it away, if you want to reduce your headaches, that is, and the returns to the dealership.
Quality does cost money, and so you'll see that the higher quality units are generally more expensive. That does not mean that the most expensive are the highest quality. It's just commenting to the fact that a lot of the things that you don't see in an RV are what's making it more expensive. The way they build it and the materials they're building it with are a big factor in that increased price on some of those RVs.
And that's why when, you know, we as buyers, we want really, really great high quality RVs, but we don't really want to pay for it. We want it as cheap as possible. You can see there's a disconnect there. So, while I'm not making excuses for the industry, and I think there's definitely a lot of room for improvement, we also saw some things that RV manufacturers are actually doing pretty well. And
a lot of the brands were really making it vocal that they were making a big effort to improve the quality of their products.
And of course, remember that, you know, best is relative. So you can have, you know, some RVs that are a similar kind of standard and quality, and there are always going to be some that are more expensive than others. And some of those are things that you just can't see, but it doesn't make them any less important. And very often when we're looking at RVs on the lot, we're looking at the things that we can see and often making a purchasing decision on that. And it's easy to ignore the stuff behind the walls and under the floor that you literally don't see with your own eyes, and discount that. That's often where it's a lot more important.
It's also important to remember that even if a company has an amazing track record of producing high quality products, they still make mistakes. They still will make a product that might be overweight in one area or might have some other flaw that the engineering didn't catch before it hit the production. And because again, this is not nearly as highly regulated industry as people are used to in the automotive industry or the regular housing industry.
And of course, every manufacturer, every RV, regardless of how much you pay for it and regardless of the brand reputation, is going to have some things that will need to be fixed during the 1-year warranty period. It just goes with the territory.
At the end of the day, just remember that it's your responsibility. You want to do all your research ahead of time, make sure you're very well informed before you sign on the dotted line, whether it's used, whether it's new. Make sure you know what you're buying, and so you can be an informed consumer.
Because once you have signed that contract and you have driven that RV off the lot, it's yours. You do have a warranty period, and they will make repairs during that warranty period, but honestly, it's just a hassle that a lot of us don't want because, well, that's time. You could be out in your RV, enjoying, having fun, and, you know, seeing things and seeing places. You don't want to be spending more time seeing the inside of a dealer shop and repair facility than you do at a nice, beautiful place like this. So there's no one size fits all in the RV industry. I mean, there's something for everyone, and one thing that I just want to put up there up front is I know a lot of you are wondering, well, what is the best RV? That's not really an accurate question to us because what's best for you is going to be what's best for somebody else and what's best for someone else's budget or someone else's needs or travel style. So there really is no answer to what is the best anything because that's not a one size fits all. So just wanted to put that out there because I know that's going to be in the comments.
That's going to be
so, you know, I think it's really important to know that you really need to know what is going to be most important to you to know what is going to be best to fit your needs. And that's why there are so many hundreds, if not thousands, of RVs, manufacturers, models, floor plans out there to choose from because there's a market for it. So if you ever get a chance to go to an RV factory tour, whether it's in Elkhart County in Indiana, where 80% of the RVs in the US are built, or anywhere else, I mean, you've got Winnebago over in Forest City, Iowa. We even jumped over to Jackson City, Ohio to see Airstream. Yep. So tons of them, you know, Jayco, Entegra, Newmar, REV Group, Keystone, Heartland. I mean, the list goes on how many
So
brands
many.
we got to see. But I mean, there are RV manufacturers around the country. The majority of them are in Elkhart County, but you will find them in other areas of the country as well. So I really would encourage you that, you know, have a look and see where they are. And if there are any in your area, or if you happen to be passing through, drop in and do a tour, even if it's not a kind of RV or a brand that you're interested in, just to see how these things are built, because we're pretty much living in boxes on wheels. That is what we're living in. Some are built better than others, but either way, it's really, really interesting, really informative, and really fun, at least for us, to see how these things are built and what goes in to making these RVs that make our lifestyle so much fun.
Well, I guess that's our quick wrap up on some of the top tips and learning we found in Indiana. I hope you found this video helpful. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe.
And of course, we go into a lot more detail over in the blog post at RVLove.com, so we'll put the link down below if you want to go and check that out.
Until next time,
We'll see you on the road. And our last tour for the week is Friday afternoon, Thor motor coach.
Big now hiring sign outside. All these manufacturers are trying to hire people because the industry is just booming. There are 20,000 open positions right now. There's so much need for staff to build these things. Everyone wants to buy them. Not enough people to build them.
So if you want a job building RVs, head to Indiana.
Head to Indiana.